been drawn against the darkness, and we will hold that line.
A story this big should only be shown widescreen. Babylon 5 widescreen. Premieres September 25th on Sci-Fi.
Listener discretion is advised. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. It's a jacked up review show. Jacked up review show.
Welcome all. We're in here to boogie once more. Returning, it's Billy Bregnard himself from the Future War Stories blog. Howdy.
Going on?
Howdy, not so stranger. Oreo is back.
Damn Skippy.
Introducing film buff Roger Priebe. Welcome.
Hello, glad to be here.
Anytime. And one of the two cohorts behind the Yum Yum Pod, which chronicles all future warfare. We got Ryan. Welcome.
Hello, it's me, Ryan Sliwinski from Yum Yum Podcast. Thank
Almost
you
sounded
so
like
much
you were
for-
channeling the Lego movie sketch there for a minute. Honey, where are my pants?
Where are my pants? But no, it's such a joy to come on. I stumbled across you guys just from being a sci-fi fan and being like, oh, what's happening? What's going on? And I would see you pop up on social media feeds a bunch, and then
The
eventually
hashtags have gotten better on Instagram. More than I can say about X or Twitter or whatever it's called.
X.
Water.
But yeah, and then we like similar things. Space Above and Beyond is a series that my wife and I are covering on our podcast. And of course, with sci-fi, there's always the similar things. If you like this, you like that. If you like that, you like this. And so Babylon 5 is a show that we cover on our podcast. We're nearing the end of the show. We're on the 5th season currently.
You watch
the
it
exciting
chronologically?
5th season. And so I'm glad
Did you watch
to
it chronologically? Oreo was wondering.
Oh yeah, chronologically. No, we just watched it in we're doing it in relative broadcast order. I mean, we did cheat. We did do the new animated movie when it came out, but you know,
Sweet.
it does mean that we will end with the Lost Tales, and so that's depressing. But that's how it is.
Hey,
Well, you have
fine.
the animated film, so we can. So actually, you don't have to end on Lost Tales.
Yeah,
And then
well,
the animated
we'll let everyone pitch in and do their own ranking now. I just figure this would be a good time than any to just mainly, we can briefly sum up how we got into it and then illustrate like our favorite moments. And they can be anything: a battle, a line, suspenseful moment, just a comedic segment. But this really is everything. It's the Iliad. It's technically based off all 3 ages of Lord of the Rings. It's got Star Wars and Star Trek elements, and it's philosophical.
That's the Rosetta Stone of sci-fi.
Especially with
But the
computer
Bible.
disc.
Don't forget the Bible. It lifts stuff from there too.
Oh,
Definitely.
they definitely say some verses here and there. Oh man. I'd always heard of this. I was always seeing references to it. I was always encountering the actors in various made-for-TV or B movies, and some of them are already kind of were household names like Bruce Boxleitner, but I was always kind of one of those. I saw a Call to Arms movie in college just because I was a Tony Todd fan, but I then, I would always see portions of it on Sci-Fi Channel in the late 2000s, and then it's like it vanished, and I didn't have any parents that were going to let me buy DVDs out of the ground up. I had an uncle who was a fan of it, but long story short, he was going through a painful divorce, and part of that divorce stripped away his access to TNT cable, so he couldn't keep up with it either. But Yeah,
That
no,
sucks.
Amazon Prime was really good at just kind of having it accessible, and throughout the late 2010s, I did do a quick binge through, and I was always reading up on it, and for me, it was kind of the mixture of if you took a Buck Rogers type show and then you did it on a Roger Corman Full Moon, Puppet Master type budget, but story comes first. It's kind of one of those few that slip through the cracks. It's hard to introduce people to it, but once you do, it's easy to see why it's captivated everybody from anime junkies to even gamers. And now we have other stuff in the form of like the new Battlestar, the Expanse, and what have you, but I don't think those could exist without just kind of taking the plunge first. Kind of like, Oreo and I will talk about the different shows, without Homicide and NYPD Blue, you don't get The Shield and Sons of Anarchy,
Very true.
all those other gritty crime epics. So, it's, but I'll circle around here. Roger, how did you make time for this?
For for Babylon 5?
Yeah.
So we talk? Oh yeah. Actually, I got into it late. I didn't get into it till around the 4th season, but luckily I had a friend.
Nice.
Yeah, I got into it late. But luckily I had a friend that recorded all of them on VHS.
Dope.
So he would give me the tapes, and
I can only
I'd go
imagine what
through
those
them like
ads
a
are
knife
like.
through butter, and
Sweet. Yeah, there are some wicked ads for those if you guys want to scrounge the internet for them, especially just some of the ones that come later where you're like, you know what? Imagine if that had been in the 2000s when they started playing TV promos before a movie screening. That would have been meta to see that Foley on a big screen. Yeah. So, Ryan, you've talked about it back and forth on Yum Yum, but why do you think, obviously the show gels with you and it's just downright epic, but can you imagine your life without it?
Oh, well, no, of course not. I grew up with science fiction. My parents are big sci-fi fans. You would have the regular in rotation. Star Trek was always there. It was always on TV. Whatever one was on. Usually TNG would play the most, or maybe Voyager or something or other. And my parents really liked Babylon 5. They're big nerds for it. They went down the rabbit hole for it.
That's how you
it's
do
the most
it.
engaged I've seen with them with a series. Like they did the whole recorded off the TV, and then look at Lita's eye when Kosh reveals himself. What's happening in that eye, in that reflection, huh? And they guessed it correctly before the reveal happened because of their nerdiness.
They've seen so many movies and TV growing up.
Right. And so when it comes to myself, though, there was 1 or 2 episodes that they had recorded off TV that I remember seeing only vaguely, mainly the Comes the Inquisitor episode. I remember that one.
Oh, wow.
As being an entryway point, but eventually they came to be on DVD, and I got the first season on DVD, and I watched that from back to front. Didn't know about The Gathering because the movies were on a separate DVD, you see. So down here in Australia, the distribution for the physical media release was really wonky at the time. So I had season 1 for 3, maybe 4 years on its own before being able to get the rest of it. So I've known the first season the most, knowing all of like the ins and outs of it. So I have an affection for the first season that some people don't. And I'm like, how can you not love the first season? It has Sinclair, my friend Sinclair.
It was very common,
Nagrath.
Unfortunately. There was like, for whatever reason, just that was kind of part of why they had him exit stage right. And they were like, we need to up some star power. Who's a TV?
No, he had heart trouble.
Well, yeah, he was schizophrenic, but like I remember.
Oh wow!
The main, yeah, and he promised to not reveal that until his death. But like, it was interesting how that was kind of the cover story. I saw like a lot of critics saying this is an interesting show, but we can't. This main guy is kind of Estelle, and it's like, really? He's got that great voice.
Well, we can talk about Sinclair because there's a lot to talk about there. But in terms of B5, just it's always gelled with me because even from the beginning, it's clear how much there is to go forward. Like each episode, like a lot of episodes had callbacks to them. I remember being, as a kid, watching it, the most profound moment, like the first really profound moment to me was when Garibaldi took Sinclair aside in one of the episodes and said, "Hey, have you noticed that you've been trying to kill yourself in every previous episode? That's kind of not good, actually." And he talks to him about it. And it's like, oh, the show recognizes that it's been doing this thing that I, the viewer, recognize. And so often in many sci-fi shows of that time period or before, the show, you know, each episode was its own thing and you'd move on. And so if there was any recurring little patterns, maybe they would latch onto those, but most often it just wouldn't happen. So we'll make jokes about it. Yeah. Sorry. But I love B5.
Same.
Totally. And William, you know, it's obviously any kind of future warfare, it just merges with you. It impacts you, everything from Space Above and Beyond to Terminator to Aliens. But where would you rank this in your love of that subgenre?
It's interesting because, you know, I watched it when it was first on TV in America, and I had to like get, because I'm from northern Oklahoma, and I had to like tune in to get it from the station from Wichita. And my brother, second season, he's like, you need to watch this show. So I actually watched it. They repeated it in the summer. And Bruce Boxleitner, I grew up with Tron and the Centauri ambassador.
Oh,
Londo.
yeah, Londo.
Yeah, Londo. Londo's in there, which I didn't know until very recently. But he's in Tron too. Tron, the original AD2. So for me, it was like all of a sudden you've got the straight diet of Star Trek, and then in the 90s, you know, sci-fi TV blows up with the X-Files and all that. And all of a sudden we get B5 and there were ads for it. And I'm like, what is this? Is this DS9?
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Because DS9 beats it. And of course, there's all conspiracy theory behind that. But for me, what it ranked is because I saw it start second season, and all of a sudden the premiere of the second season, there's Bruce Boxleitner, there's the Omega class destroyer, the Agamemnon, which, you know, is like the Leonov from 2010. I'm like, oh my God, this ship looked badass. And I was hooked. And then, of course, first episode is so dynamic with the second season, episode 1, with Bruce Boxleitner. And it's such a dynamic episode, and there's a lot with it. And, of course, later they picked that up in one of the TNT movies, which is one of the great movies. But for me, immediately, it was like I was already in the military science fiction thing. And then when you start to get that, and then, of course, here comes Space Above and Beyond, here comes Millennium. It was just this wonderful time period. And like his parents, you know, I'm 47 years old. I put my VHS tapes and labeled each one of them. The episodes have stupid names. I'm sorry, they do. So I'd have to label, like, you know, with like this happened, because you could never figure out what the episodes
His name
were.
was Jerry Baldy Sr. Something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. First episode was Sheridan or whatever on my VHS tapes. I carefully labeled, and so I would tape the great ones, the really interesting ones, and I had them for years. And so for me, it automatically, especially with the episode where they go, where they actually outfit B5, and you get the actor from Terminator that comes in as Father God, where you actually get Grappos, which actually later bought the role playing game module for that, so I could talk about it in future War Stories. But it was really interesting. That hooked me, and it was so different than anything going on. Especially, you know, DS9 didn't start off that strong, but Babylon 5 did. Babylon 5 season's better than DS9. Hot take, dropping it. But I think Yum Yum will back me up, right, bro? Will you back me up?
I'll back you up.
Totally.
Of course, the first season of B5 has a big praying mantis gangster. It has, of course, everyone's favorite character, Jinxo. And it has Walker Smith of the who of course was Garibaldi's best friend, who told him to watch his back. No, I agree. Like, the first season can be like, I think I say this with our show a lot, but the first season of any science fiction show is going to be a crucible for people, because they can be slow, plotting, rocky. The acting can all be all over the place, but there's always, at least for the most part, a hook in some way. I think for many people, at least for me when I was a young lad, is Londo was that hook, because he was a very fun character. He's very funny, but he's dramatic, and he's an alien. Like, as a kid, I'm like, cool, the wacky alien who's like a slubby guy, and he's also a bad guy. He's a piece of shit, but I love him anyway. And and the spaceship stuff and all that stuff. It's like there's always going to be something if you're a sci-fi fan. There's always going to be that little hook in there for you. I mean, if anyone says they're a fan of TNG and they watch the first season of TNG, I mean that's more brutal than any first season of like B5 or any other Star Trek.
It's actually neck and neck for me. I just love them both. I love everything Next Gen. As long as it's not an episode that involves too much Alexander or Troy's mom, I'm good. Same thing with DS9. Like anything that's Ferengi Central, no thanks. I never got the appeal. It's just no. It's kind of Roger will find this funny. It's kind of deep hurting.
Deep hurting.
Hey,
did you at least enjoy where they came on Enterprise, where the NX-01 has their run-in with the Ferengi? That's a fun episode.
Oh yeah, if they're the bad guys of the week, that's fine. I just mean it's showing all of their culture and everything.
Oh,
I like the culture stuff though, because that really gives you more depth into who they are versus look, they're bad guys and all they care about is being greedy. But you go into another series and they explore more. That's why I love DS9. Because they took a lot of characters from TNG.
Oh yeah,
and said,
it's the most.
We're going to give them more life and give them actual depth to them versus what they had before. And that's perfect.
It's kind of just sad how those writers were like some of the few who could fight producer Rick Berman, who was kind of the gatekeeper, and is like everyone else just never had that power. They're kind of like, I guess I'll bend over and do what he wants. It's like
you're going to take this.
I was going to say, it is amusing, just to go back to B5 for a second. You have the Ferengis in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. They're the comedy race. They're the funny guys. You can have an episode.
They can be. Yeah.
And I appreciate that even in B5, that the comedy alien races will become a serious force later on. Like the Centauri are a joke when you start the show. The Drazi are a joke. We meet they're like boobs. They fight over colors. And then we get to the end of the show, and they're one of the most powerful races in the show. Like the Drazi and the Narn just wreck stuff, and it's like, I
love that shit with the colors. That was so fucking funny.
It's fantastic.
Right? And it kind of almost goes back to that classic original series track episode of the whole Black and White.
Last Battlefield. Isn't that the name of the episode?
Yeah, Black and White. Yeah, literally. Yeah. It's kind of that same kind of deal where you're like, seriously, do you hear yourself right now?
The only time I like the Ferengi is on Lower Decks, so that's as much as I like the Ferengi.
Yeah.
Maybe one watches Lower Decks or not.
I gotta catch up on so much shit.
I got your reference. So,
anyone into like the figures or toys with Babylon 5 or any of the merchandise?
I have some figures actually. I'm trying to hunt down the fucking encyclopedia.
Oh yeah, from B5 books.
Yeah,
I got a lot of their stuff, but man, it's so expensive. I'm like,
I know the fucking
security manual.
There's a sucker born every day.
I can't help it. I'm a fan. I buy everything.
No, I'm not saying you guys are awful. It's just that's what I hate is they just up these prices knowing damn well we want it, and it's just like, come on.
I get limited print runs, and the stuff's expensive to print. I mean, I get that, but that can't be that expensive.
I know. I have on my channel. I've covered Babylon 5 and Valen's Name, The Price of Peace. I have the cookbook on the channel.
It's a great cookbook, isn't it? It's
I know,
like the Wookiee
awesome.
Cookies, Star Wars one.
Yeah. I have the security manual as well. I'm trying to track down the encyclopedia through OCLC, but I haven't had any luck yet.
Yeah, and they had that Babylon 5 at 20 with all the high def pictures and stuff and all that, and they were like, "This is the closest we're going to get to Blu-ray." Oh, I'm glad they're wrong on that.
Man, what a time! When it comes to those things, the books and stuff, they are annoying to track down. I have the cookbook because it was amusing to have the B5 cookbook, and if you're someone who likes to watch the show and you can rewatch it, it is amusing to see the weird food that they gave these actors to eat. And it's like, here's some blue balls. Now eat that.
Kim, are you able to show that picture that I sent you?
Yeah. You have this $200 autograph.
Yeah, check out this thing I bought a couple of months ago at the comic book, the one comic book store got it in.
It's got all this giant cast.
Oh, nice.
Nope, did it show up? I don't see it, but they can see it. Yeah, it's a full. It's a cast photo. They did 100 of those.
Oh, I also have the Faith Manages source book on my channel too.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So Oreo, how did you get into it? Was it back in the 90s, or was it in reruns, or years later?
I remember when it was on in the 90s. I was into DS9. I was like, fuck that show. I like Trek. Trek is dominant forever. And I just turned my nose to the B5 back then because I was like, I don't care for that shit. It's junk. And then I got into it.
It's fun to rank these as part of the Trek canon in some way.
Yeah.
It was like this B5 movie is the 5th best Trek movie.
And I bought season 1 off eBay for $8, and I was like, I want to see how this is. And I got through it, and I was like, I need season 2. So I bought every other. I bought all the seasons. I bought the movies. I bought Crusade. And when I finished it, I was like, oh my god, this show is so fucking good. And I was in tears because it was so powerful. And I'm like, man, this is a heavy fucking
that
show.
Ending, so sad.
Yes, because you have to watch it chronologically. Because I didn't know about the chrono order until after I finished my rewatch. I was like, there's a chrono order? Okay. So I went chrono order. And you have to watch the last 2 movies before the series finale for it to really have that heavy ass impact. And I'm like, that killed me. But the best part of B5 is not just Sheridan. It's the reverse trilogy with Sinclair and becoming Valen. I love that so much. I was like, there's a fucking trilogy within the whole series, and it's so beautifully written. Mm-hmm. And the way it unfolds is so goddamn good.
Oh, totally.
Nah.
Every once in a while, I will meet some fans who don't seem to be familiar with what the show is similar to. They're just like, oh, I don't believe that. I'm like, well, believe it. It's on record as J. Michael Straczynski said, I'm making Hill Street Blues in space with a Lord of the Rings overview and Trek technology. And it's like, well, yeah. Why would that not make sense?
For real. And J. Michael, oh my god, I love him.
Yeah, he can justify everything he does. I love how he'll sometimes get too close to the material and say, I went on too long in that lecture or rant that the character had. You know, like, really? I thought it was cool.
He's a treat. He's a real treat on Twitter. I love him so much.
Yeah, everyone always keeps asking him how many are on this ship, and he always says as much as the plot demands.
Oh, it's actually confirmed in the security manual.
Oh yeah, no,
yeah,
it's interesting. I still have some of those RPG online things that confirm even more details. I know he likes to call them non-canon because he didn't sign off on it. I'm like, well,
that's an interesting thing too. When you go back, remember when the show had other writers on it? It's not just JMS.
Yeah, Peter David, and Neil Gaiman helped out on one later episode. Yeah.
But you have like Larry DiTilio, who was a partner of JMS's from his days in animation, and he had him in the first. And Larry DiTilio also was a big writer for like tabletop games and things like that. And when you go back to the first 2 seasons, you can kind of see that be a little bit more bled through.
From Buck Rogers and Star Trek did one.
David Gerald, who did Trouble with Tribbles. He wrote everyone's favorite episode, Believers, the fun episode of B5 that said, watch Franklin kill a kid. No, watch Franklin get a kid killed. That fun episode.
That episode, I feel is so meta. Like, I feel like in some ways that's been influenced on other stuff, kind of like the Orville.
Oh yeah, I use that episode as a great litmus test of what where a fan like lands on the show, because some people fucking hate that episode. Some people love that episode. That's like,
I feel like it's supposed to move us, and yet
I like kid violence. Give it to me.
Oh my god!
Fuck them kids. B5.
Damn, dude. So no, that's true. I feel like half the time stuff like this is supposed to move other people, but it moves them the wrong way, and so then they get on the defense.
Yeah. And some people don't get the whole premise of the show, and that's where everything gets lost in translation. You're like, yeah, it's all fiction, but it's also a reflection of the world today. Even, I can't remember what episode, there were a couple episodes that were a reflection of what was going on today. And I was like, damn, that is so relative, mirror in my face. And I'm like,
yeah,
wow, that is really powerful. And it still echoes. And I'm like, that's perfect. No, actually, it was Rambo 3 was a reflection of the Ukraine war. Literally,
kind of is, yeah.
And I was like, damn, that's literally what's going on in Ukraine right now. And I'm like, that's from the 80s, and they're literally foretelling what the fuck would happen in Ukraine. I'm like,
hey. Yeah. Half the different races on all these shows, I always thought kind of growing up, they were kind of Bosnian and Serbian, and nowadays I'd say Israel and Palestine.
What would you say Jakar is? I mean, he's more pacifist, but he's more martyr pacifist.
Oh, that speech he gives in season 3 where he's beating his chest is great.
We are one. I love that fucking speech.
But yeah, he's kind of I'd say he's someone who's not the United Nations, but he's
prideful, but
he's gonna fire the last gun if this protest becomes a riot.
So
kind of he's definitely in that gray area, because like when they introduce him, you think, hey, this Napoleon, guy.
When you see Jakar at the beginning, he comes across as the villain. He's the lizard-looking guy with the red eyes, and he wants to crush the Centauri's bones into dust.
He's the good guy, right? Oh, they're both kind of been shit. Both their races have been really bad to each other.
Kind of like Bajor and the Cardassians.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Especially that. Yeah.
But it's funny, like when they use mass drivers. I remember that haunting me because I'd read about mass drivers, and when they did it, and there was a thing that the actor goes, we have been slaves before and we beat them before. And the actor who does that, I remember when I saw what movie, he's in The Fugitive, and I was like, I'm not used to seeing him.
Oh, yeah.
He's the terrorist they try to free in executive decision, but he was one of those, a go-to bad guy, and yet this is like one of those few good guy roles
too. I forget what season that was.
He was Tomahawk.
Yeah,
he was the recurring Romulan bad
on and
guy,
off. Would keep taunting him.
What's
where
funny?
half of his appearances are like fictitious, like holograms or different like alterations. So half of the time you see him, he's not even the real Tomahawk, which is amusing as hell. But we were saying about like the series touching upon topics that are relevant today, and I mean that's the gold of the show, right? It has some very prescient things to say, but it's the age-old stuff of if you're a student of history or student of society and behaviors, these things recur, these things go on. The language used for, say, fascism and the ideology behind it, sometimes, it will still be the same thing. It's just they change the names around. In this case, we're going to use aliens, and we're going to use telepaths as examples of things as well. And for myself too, another thing that I love about B5 is in that era in particular, and I think it's still applicable now, for science fiction television, I think for most people it's Star Trek. Like Star Trek is the big thing that looms large. It's always going to be the thing that when you're in a conversation about sci-fi TV, eventually you'll say, oh, this reminds me of in Star Trek. What I love about Babylon 5 is it does things that Star Trek didn't do. And
especially
it's not
in
even
Crusade,
in a showy...
where they got an atomic computer and that the game guy is facing off with. I'm like, that is Trek if it had even more stones,
Yeah, exactly. But we have, in this series, we have people with addiction issues. We have people who are religious, and not religious in a nebulous way, but in a very personal one. Sinclair was a Jesuit. Ivanova is Jewish. Garibaldi's agnostic, and Dr. Franklin has his own little religion that he has. That's an extension of a sci-fi concept in this series. And then we have all of the aliens and their religion.
Yeah, Jakar became a fucking leader himself.
It actually means something.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just appreciate that.
Do you love it when Jakar and the Arthurian knight kind of inspire Arthur Pendragon visit, and they decide to fight all these dark forces in season 3? Played by Michael York from Logan's Run and Austin Powers. And I was like, I just love how he's, for whatever reason, he's not easily swayed by anyone. And this guy's like, I like your sense of combat.
And I love it that they put his character, because he was the first one to shoot at the Minbari cruiser when they go to the border in the film in the beginning. And
in the beginning, they used the stock footage. Yeah,
I was like, holy crap, that's good. I just want to add this in. First of all, Night Watch. When after 9/11, I was like, oh, here comes Night Watch, and my wife's like, what are you talking about? And another connection. And I put this in the chat just so I could get it out there, but
sure,
he did, the creator of Babylon 5 also did Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. I watched.
Great show.
And I was like, okay, this is like giving Terminator vibes, and and then he reused stock footage of the destroyed cities in one episode of Babylon 5, and I was sitting there with
I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's like second season, and I was like, oh yeah, plus Real Ghostbusters, exactly. I was like, wait a minute, that's from Captain Power. That's like supposed to be one of the nuked out cities on Earth. I was like,
that makes sense. Same producers.
I was like, well, I wanted to see Sauron, going back and forth, hunting for Captain Power. And there's some Captain Power references in Babylon 5, and I'm like, ooh, I got you there, buddy, kind of thing. So, not that Captain Power is really remembered by almost anyone, but it's just funny how
I used to have a red lunchbox of that.
Well, I respect you, sir. You're cool in my book. That would have been made.
I forwarded the DVD to some other Star Trek podcasters. I hope they actually watched it. But
really?
It was about $80 for me to get a copy on eBay. It was just like, for real.
That's not bad.
It's not bad compared to what it could be, but I'm like, still. Yeah.
What was $80? I'm sorry. What was $80?
Captain Power.
Oh,
the show that JMS worked on that Will was referencing, and don't get me wrong, I mean, both are kind of two sides of the same coin, kind of in a way, where they're just taking the best elements from all this other thing, and it doesn't feel derivative. It feels like someone who wanted to make a kick-ass, storyline. Show
and with Captain Power, from the little I've seen of it too, you get some characters or some character types that feel like they're the lead up to noble, people we'll get in B5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get like the headstrong badass lady in power type role, and then you get Ivanova in B5, and that's another thing too that's greatly loved about B5 is you have all of these wide array of characters that change, but they're funny and they're stoic at the same time. And I know too when I was growing up, Ivanova was my favorite character as well, because she was like the
love her.
No nonsense lady. She doesn't have time for bullshit Deanna Troi romance plots, and she actually has a very human we have a very human understanding of why she can be upset about things with her father and her backstory and her mother and all of this stuff. It's just, and that performance is really, really good. And then as the show gets going too, we get even cooler
in the beginning
female
movie,
characters.
they reveal her heroic brother who she's estranged from, and she's like, damn it, I told you to not enlist.
Yeah.
And she's the first lesbian in sci-fi too, back in the 90s.
Bisexual character,
bisexual Jewish Russian. Without a doubt.
You can't make this up.
The BJR's back, baby.
And there's so many great little details too. Like when I was, watching this, obviously the CGI is a point of contention for people nowadays, but I always appreciated that this show didn't hold back on space battles. Like, they never held back on space battles. They would give you all of these really inventive, crazy, cool things, like different camera angles and the movement and stuff. Like when a shadow ship versus a non-ship, it's actually an event that happens. And I'm like, yeah,
I mean,
well, in a lot of other shows, it's like maybe
Star Trek guys, I think they work so well because they're staging it just like they would an actual like tactical like SWAT team, or doctor show, just coverage. Show what's going around the console and how everyone's losing their shit, But yeah, in the beginning, when Sheridan first has to take command from the other captain who's just fallen during the first Earth and Minbari War, I think that is just a wonderful battle because he's having to lay out landmines, and there's an ambush at his presidential swearing-in ceremony in season 5 that I think is pretty hip. It's like that's how you kick off a season. And Crusade, when they were spinning off and they had that new giant ship, the Excalibur, that's only been half tested, and they're fighting the Drake. I thought a lot of those battles were neat and gave Star Wars a run for its money, but even the Call to Arms movie, where there's a lot of actors in that movie that are later on the TV show 24, so that's kind of a fun nod. Tony Almeida is being literally bossed around by Sheridan, but I love how just that final shot when they're like, holy shit, Earth is going to get, pulverized by this disease.
And then it gets canceled.
Can't do it.
My favorite B5 movie is Third Space.
That's a good one too, especially when that and JMS said that he was inspired by Forbidden Planet and a bunch of those other alien movies. I love how it's kind of controlling every other person's mind, and so as a result, they're not only sending fighter jets to fight the alien force outside, but they're having to stop a lot of the protests and riots.
Well, and fight people that they know.
It's violence, so yeah, not a protest. But I love how the chief of security is like, "Oh, we do not have enough people."
Zach. Yeah, I love Zach because that also has a very Lovecraftian feel. That episode, that movie, and I love one of my favorite characters in the show now is Zach Allen. I love Zach Allen. He's probably in my top 5. I love him because he's just a schmuck. He's just a guy. He's just like he's like. Yeah, but his character, he's very much like, hey, I had no ambitions. I was just a guy who wanted to keep his head down and get a little bit of money. And I love him in Third Space when he's having to face off against like all of this sci-fi exposition about like Lovecraftian horror from another dimension. And he has this look on his face of like, that's not what I'm here for. I don't give a shit about that.
For a while,
you know who I am. I'm just a guy. I'm not here to be involved in a big sci-fi Lovecraft plot. I'm just here to clean my guy.
He asks Lita out on a date, which is kind of both amusing and pathetic.
Oh yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, Garibaldi and the blonde actually had a moment together in the Price of Peace comic. That was funny.
Really?
Talia?
Yeah. They
the gal from Mars. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. They did,
right. Yeah. The Mars raid is so well done too. Oh my god. Yeah. And that's as Captain Power as it gets there when they are having to kind of go into all those switchboards and kind of just do a Guns of Navarone kind of raid.
Yeah, they were watching a movie. No, they were watching Looney Tunes and popcorn together. I was like, that's so fucking cute.
Yeah, Garibaldi had a Looney Tunes, wasn't it? Daffy Duck on the back.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
he had a lot of Daffy Duck merchandise. Being a Warner Brothers production, you got to use a lot of those. Gifts. He had the big Daffy Duck poster, but also in the bathroom, he had like a soap dispenser of Daffy Duck's head. He had a lot of little details like that in his room. I love those things too. Like with set design, you would have Sheridan's oranges, where in the first episode he comes in, he's like, golly gee, I'm just so hungry for fresh fruit and oranges. I can't wait. And then every single episode is going to be an orange in there. There's going to be orange juice. He's going to be doing something with oranges. It's like, it's his quarters. There's a big bowl of them.
And they remember their quirks instead of just having a one-off where you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
And you have Sheridan, the Coke dealer.
Oh wait, when is that?
Well, I forget. I think it was season 3 or 4 where he's dressed like a coke dealer. He had a purple suit, he had the goatee,
Oh wow.
and the hair, and I'm like, he's dealing fucking coke at the bowling alley again.
Oh yeah. That'd be like season 5, probably. That was goatee Sheridan era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love that look. I love that look on him, and I'm like, he looks like a coke dealer.
But he really does. Anytime they're dressing up or just waking up in bed, you feel the sounds of humanity that other shows would just kind of not have.
Mm-hmm. And the way
also
him and Delenn grew together, was so beautiful.
His look on his face when he realized, oh, you made yourself more human looking.
Yeah. And that's also talked about in The Price of Peace. That comic ties into her transformation. Yeah, I know. I love them comics.
When they have to fight the Earth forces.
That was good.
Season 4, like going back to your earlier points, guys. That so well filmed, just tracking around. You feel the tension in the room. There's a bunch of character actors. One of them I know was one of the douchey doctors on Scrubs, and I love it.
Yeah, Ken Jenkins.
Yeah, I know, good actor, but man,
Captain Trevor Hall, he's great.
Bad Apples role.
That makes me think of. I always wondered in that episode, No Surrender, No Retreat. He is in a captain's chair on his ship, and he looks so small in it. He looks like a little child in that scene. It was like, I wondered why. Yeah. And I think it's because most of the cast in Babylon 5 are freakishly tall. So every prop and thing is designed for tall people. Like, for instance, Bruce Boxleitner is 6'3".
Yeah.
In the back then. And so Jerry Doyle is around the same height as him too. And like the women, like Claudia Christian was fairly tall for a woman, and Michael O'Hare was tall. Like a lot of the cast were tall people. So everything is made for tall people. So when a normal sized person comes in and has to interact with these props, they look like children next to them. It's just such a funny little detail that exists in the behind the scenes, because like you fall down that rabbit hole, because I listened to some of the commentary tracks, and when you get the cast and they're just talking about that stuff, like Bruce Boxleitner will casually say like, I was 6'3", I'm 6'3", and it's like, oh, of course you are, I guess.
Great blooper reels on those discs too. Oh my god.
Yeah, but there's with the show too, it's always difficult to sell people on getting into it, because you're like, watch The Gathering, one of the most boring, slow plotting, weirdly paced and toned things you will ever see, but it will matter later. I mean, it matters later because Jakar and Lita reference the pleasure thresholds right near the end of the show again, so it's worth it for that.
Yes.
But it's hard to get people to try something. There's been a bunch of shows where I've literally begged people, you need to watch this. This is one of the best shows of all time. One of my pals has
refused to get through the show. He's like, whoever made the set designs on this show should be shot. I'm like, dude, come on. It's a little bit.
They had $1.50 in the beginning there. Give them a break. They did the best they could.
Hobby Lobby.
But it's also hard to be like, because we know how great the show is and how great it turns out per season to season to season. But it's like telling someone, okay, you guys sit through 22 episodes. Some are great. Some are decent. Most of them are decent, but then it'll get really, really good after 22
by season
hours.
3, especially, like you already have made up your mind about which side you're on. It leaves it to the viewer's idea. But like when they have that Narn riot, and some of those other Psycor guys have taken over the security, and they're kind of doing war crimes, and Zach and company and Garibaldi are having to kind of find ways to knock them out or arrest them.
But
the Psycor in general, I mean, they're the Gestapo, and I sometimes use that with B5 guys, and I love that scene, and just having Walter Koenig, Chekhov himself, be kind of the main face of that. That was it allowed him to kind of stretch his range as an actor. But I love how he's like teaching a rookie on one episode, and then he just spaces out another guy.
That's
like
his last one.
Ruthlessness is like, see, you're no different than the victims you take over. I don't need you anymore. I'm like, that is cold shit.
Yeah, he was on the Subplot show and talked about his role on
I'll have to check it out. I love that podcast.
I love
YouTube
that
show.
too, and I love that. I clean my bathrooms every Sunday and listen to that show. I'll be honest.
Nice.
It's because it's on my chore list every week. Anyway, he was talking about, and they mentioned him like, please talk about B5. Please talk about B5. And then I remember when he came on the show on B5, I'm like, oh, okay, it's Chekhov, and I was like, oh,
it's not Chekhov.
Yeah. No more nuclear space missiles. Nothing of that.
And of course, he's short. And of course, you got him up. Now that makes sense because I remember the way they shot it. He's very short. And thanks for that. I wondered how tall some of those people were. And I remember that, but he had this twinkle in his eye. I'm like, who is this person? And it's just dark, weird.
Yeah.
Fantastic acting.
Is this a quirk or is it part of the actor?
It's an actor who, sadly, in their career of TV and film, have never gotten the chance to show off their acting range, be able to show off their acting range. Because, again, I also think of him as Chekhov, the funny one, the
guy got to
goofball
do
of the
comedy,
Enterprise.
But he didn't really get as much, and it's just like, he needs more.
If he had been on...
Go on.
If he'd have been on the Twilight Zone in the 80s,
oh yeah,
he would have really flourished a lot.
I could see it as a Soviet general going.
JMS worked on the Twilight Zone in the 80s.
He did.
So that would have been a neat little piece of business there too.
Totally.
But I mean, Walter Koenig, he's so effortless as Bester. He's arguably the best villain in the show, the best baddie in the show because
you understand him.
And he's fun to watch because
he knows he's brainwashing all these other poor bastards.
He doesn't care.
And at the same time, I mean, once he's defeated, he kind of just goes back into the line work. He's like, I'm awaiting, reassignment.
Well, his fate is actually revealed in a book.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Fuck. I need to read that book. I read about that.
But I love in the show, what I appreciate about Bester is he starts off as a cop with delusions of grandeur. He thinks he's very, very important. And then he ends the show as a cop with delusions of grandeur who thinks he's very, very important. Like he's a character that does a lot, but also doesn't move that much forward because at the end of the day,
he's like Hawkeye in Avengers. He doesn't really do much.
Yeah. Like in the confines of the show, he's just a guy. He's just a cop within the Psy-Corps that they send to do jobs. I love the running gag of him having to roll his eyes when his superiors tell him that he has to go to Babylon 5. Yeah. He's like, oh god, not again. And when he tells them, like, I do have a life outside of this station,
Oh, especially when he gets captured. He's like, I didn't expect that from you. Are you sure you want to put your hands on me? I could reprimand you in a heartbeat. But once he knows that the other times he does cat and mouse games with Sheridan, I do love how he's like, oh, he's not backing down. I'm just going to see where this goes. Maybe he can use me and I can gain his trust and take over his station. Yeah.
Do you have my usual quarters of the brig nice and ready for me? I do miss them. Oh, man.
He wants the seat nice and warm. Yeah.
Oh, that was a great gag, too, when you get to see him sit in the captain's chair on the White Star.
Just to rub it in. It's like,
and just Sheridan coming over, giving him that look of like, what's going on here? Get the hell out of my chair. It's like finally Walter got to sit in the captain's chair. There you go.
I would tie that in with him going to the shadows, get the hell out of our galaxy. Get the hell out of my chair. I must mention The Legend of the Rangers. I would have seen that show too, and it didn't take off. I get it why the movie's infamous. It came out while there was an NFL playoff, so it was lowly rated, and the holographic fighting was kind of mocked. But I actually like that captain they chose and how he does a lot of psychological mind games. And I thought, had there been more of that would have probably been a 2-season show that could have lasted a while, but it was not to be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in B5 that could be explored in spin-offs. You could have a Psy-Corps series.
I'm just glad they brought that guy to the reunions. It was like, that was good, because I think his name is like Dylan Neal or something like that. He's another Canadian actor who you've seen in a million things, almost always playing a baddie of the week. And I'm just like, see, that would have been a cool role for him because I think warmed up.
Yeah, I appreciate with the cast and crew of B5. It's nice that they seem pretty tight knit, especially since we've lost so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's a shocking amount, but you know, you watch any of these convention footage and it's like, look, they even got Corwin. They got Corwin here, who's been in the whole show as just guy on the bridge, you know, who's nice.
The guy with the headset. And I always light up when I see him on a CBS show, because if there's anything we know, TV people love working with other famous TV people.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And before David McCallum died, he was in a good B5 episode as a scientist with a predator-type creature. It was a cool kind of just universal homage, I thought, that episode. But I loved how I saw him on an NCIS episode recently, like his final one, and the way he was talking, my mom and I were both like, "Oh, he is totally referencing his Man from U.N.C.L.E. character."
Of course,
but
of course,
it's one of those for the hardcore people who've been watching TV since day one.
Yeah, there's for the nerds out there, the sci-fi nerds, you're going to get a lot of those character actors that pop up, like Roy Dotrice as Mr. Lance in the season 2 finale, the one who's like, I'm on Peace in Our Times, where he's basically playing his character from Space 1999.
Right.
It's the exact same type of bureaucrat. And you get a whole slew, hence you get Walter Koenig, this is your sci-fi royalty, just pop up in the first season, and you get to be in the rest of the show. Yeah, and there are some actors who have gone on to do some interesting things. Like everyone, you all remember Byron, right? Of course, you remember Byron, everyone's favorite character. That actor, Robin Atkin Downes, is like probably the one
Byron.
with the,
yeah.
Okay.
He's probably the one with the most successful career post B5.
I always liked him. Yeah, he's a good voice actor, and he's.
I was gonna say, he does a lot of voice acting.
But I don't understand why that. Work. I really don't get why that character is hated, but.
Well, he speaks annoyingly is my reason.
I guess so.
But
and people, I think, just jealous of his hair. I mean, he had gorgeous hair. We can't take that away from him.
Yeah, it reminds me of Julian Sands in The Warlock, but I will give you the sex scene between him and Byron is kind of cringy.
Byron and Lita, they fucked. It's true.
I know, but the way it's done, you're like, did I just turn on late night HBO? What's going on here?
Amazing sequence.
And
he's in a bunch. He was even in the Orville as well, because he does like creature feature work as well as.
Oh, so is Boxleitner. Then they're all underneath heavy makeup, and you're like, see, this is the ultimate love letter.
Yeah. Now Bruce gets to know what it was like for the alien actors to be in the makeup, and of course Bill Mumy did the show too, Lost in Space.
Yeah, total tribute to him in a way, and. I also have Claudia Christian's unpublished B5 books if anyone wants a copy.
Oh.
I actually got some takers.
Oh.
Well, of course, we have Little House on the Prairie reference with B5, a show because
Melissa Gilbert.
Was it Melissa Gilbert, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Melissa Gilbert, who, fun little fact, there's in season 5, there's the character of Lord Jarno, who's Londo's good dear friend, who gets brutally killed. And that actor, he's married to Bruce Boxleitner's first wife, not Melissa Gilbert, but his first wife, who that wife introduced Melissa Gilbert to Bruce Boxleitner. So all
I like
goes
how
down.
they would work some of that in. Like when Lockley first comes on the bridge, you instantly are told, "Oh yeah, we and Sheridan, we know each other." How? Oh, just
wink.
Yeah.
Wink. Yeah, that's the thing too. On my rewatch, I'm really loving Lockley as a character. I think
I don't understand why she's hated.
It's because we all love Ivanova. You know,
I feel like people
it's
just
final season
because they don't
and
like
we
season
left
5.
Ivanova on one of the most tragic notes you could leave her on, and then it's like, and now he's a new lady who's also a no-nonsense brunette with a tied-back ponytail who also has a possibly bisexual relationship with a blonde-haired woman. It's like I can understand why Lockley. I've not liked Lockley in the past, but I've always loved Tracy Scoggins' performance. I'm loving Lockley in this watch because she's
a fun movie actress.
I've always pictured back in the day of Claudia Christensen just punching her agent in the face. Back in whatever year that was.
I mean, it was kind of what they did with Andrea Thompson. It was just kind of one of those. It's like he always said, I have a literal trapdoor for every character. So I think, while you could, yes, make the argument that JMS was in Dick Wolf territory and could have just differentiated them a bit more, I don't think. I mean, I feel like they differentiate the character enough, but I can see. I feel like a lot of people just want to harp on it just as an excuse to hate the entire season when there's still some fun stuff in there.
For real, that's like the last season. It's like there's nothing else after that aside from the movies on Crusade.
Right, it ended after season 4. I'm like, well, I want to see the characters get married.
It's like, I need to know what happens to them. Tell me, please. We have
at least watch the final episode instead of just acting like, oh, it's unwatchable.
Oh, God.
I mean, there's a funny episode which reminds me of a few Star Wars comics where they have just a random day for maintenance guys on the station, and it just cracks me up, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the closest Harlan Ellison got to writing a script. That was a story by Harlan Ellison, because he was on the series as like a creative consultant. He did a few
you get his
too.
cynicism so much half the time.
Oh yeah, because he did a few acting roles on B5. Like he was the voice of remember when the ship got at the station, activated the previous AI, Sparky, the AI, who
he
just
was the voice,
get talking. And of course he was the voice of Zudi in Rebone Zudi, with of course Penn and Teller as Rebone Zudi.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode too. It reminds me of their West Wing episode where they play a fictional version of themselves that accidentally insults a diplomat, and a same kind of vibe. Now, can anyone answer to me what the ending of that episode even means?
What?
Because they do like a prank and a bunch of other Easter eggs, and like at the end, Penn says, "Oh, he did this one trick. It explains this soup he makes." I'm like, what? It never made any sense to me.
That's the humor of Penn Jillette for you.
I guess. I'm like, what's going on?
Very kooky. But no, each season of B5 has their titular episode, the one that the season is named after, right?
Yeah.
And each one of those episodes is always a treat. I know that's something that I love about the construction of the show too. Not many shows I know of, especially of this variety, has that little gimmick to it as well. It's like, oh, by the way, this season's named after this episode. Like this season 1, it's Signs and Portents. That's a big episode. Look out for it. And so you do, and it's a big episode, and it's exciting, and then you get that going forward and going on. And it's always been like a thing that I've appreciated about B5 is like it has its big episodes. Like it lets you know which ones are like the coming of shadows. Like it trains you. Like shadow is an important word for us. So if there's an episode with that in it, it must be important. But then it will lure you into a sense of security and then say, and this one's just called interludes and examinations. Should just be an easygoing time. Nothing will happen here. We just had a silly episode with Via, so it should be easy going. Oh, what's that? Kosh got brutally murdered and Londo is entering his villain era. Whoops.
Kosh. There's so many times where you want to punch Kosh and you're like, what is this guy? Tell me what's going on.
I love him. Like he has that mystique that can't be replicated, honestly.
No.
Like you can have it with different characters, but you can't really replicate that lightning in a bottle moment. And his whole presence is just there. Like you want to know, he knows a lot and he won't tell you anything.
Yeah.
He's a lot like Q, only less boisterous.
He reminds me always a little of the Dungeon Master from the D&D animated. You know how he would say things and you'd be like, what? That's always your reminder. But I'll never forget when Sheridan goes, tell me how the skin in, and he goes, in fire. I was like, as a kid, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that just got bad. Who did the voice of Kosh, by the way?
I don't remember his name. I just looked him up actually an hour ago. He's a giant anime.
The actor
dubber.
is Ard White Chamberlain. He does a lot of anime, not just voice work, but he does a lot of script writing for anime.
Oh, wow.
He does a lot of production for anime. So that's where he lives primarily. And it's funny because he does a lot of, when he does voice work, he does a lot of voices for like young children. So because he has a higher voice, so doing the Kosh stuff is cool. You have all this modulation. I think JMS said too that after a certain point, JMS would sit with Ardwhite and direct him on how to do some of these lines because he needed Kosh to eventually have a personality a bit more, because in the first season he's just, he's very robotic in a lot of ways. He's just very blunt to a funny degree. I love Kosh, like just simple. They're a dying race. We should let them pass. And it's like, who's a dying race? A Centauri or Nan? Yes.
Oh, totally. And you see so many shows that illustrate that they were inspired by B5, and I'm like, see, but B5 is kind of, to me, more like X-Files, where I'm along for the surprises.
Exactly. And going back to
compared to other ones where they're just making it up as they go along, I'm looking at you, Heroes and Lost, where it's like,
you stole, Heroes and Lost and Fringe, those ones. I love
Westworld. You're like,
yeah, I love the second Kosh, the purple one who's more of a prick. I love the second Kosh. I love the second Kosh
about it. He's a prick.
Because he doesn't do riddles. He just says straight up what he thinks, and what he thinks is mean. You've had 3 seasons of truth is a 3-edged sword. Yeah. Okay, thanks, Kosh. And then this Kosh comes along and says respect. You haven't earned respect. And it's like, oh. Oh boy.
So how many people have gone past 2?
What do you mean? I can count 6. To 3.
Oh. The penises.
I think we've seen every season, so I'm not sure what 2 number. Are you saying there's a character who's a number 2?
No, well, there's 6. There's 6 things.
There's 6.
I mean, the Cardassians say there's 4 lights. So what we
Centauri have 6.
Oh,
and Veer's only been to 2, so
he's only got to 2.
He's only gotten to 2, so anyone else gotten past 2?
This show, by the way, this show has a lot of virgins in it. By the way, Linnea, Veer, Marcus is the most unbelievable. Come on,
he died of assassin of joy.
Yeah, I didn't get the Marcus thing either. He was like supposed to be this, punk kid before he joined the Rangers. He told me he didn't get laid. Stop. Good looking with that accent.
The hair. Come on.
The hair, the accent, the beard. Come on. Even I swoon. I'm straight, and even I swooned a little. Ooh, Marcus.
No one's that straight, honey.
Yeah.
Oh.
Except for Franklin. Who's like, I am not. I could do better than you.
I am
that's
not
one
a
of my
crook.
favorite.
I love Franklin.
20 credits is 20 credits. So
why do people hate Franklin so much? I find him.
He's great.
I love Franklin, but I love his relationship with Marcus, where they have to pretend to be the married couple on Mars. And
that was funny. Yeah,
that was funny. But I love how Richard Bigg plays it. Instead of it being like gay panic or whatever, he plays it as, oh, come on, Marcus? I could do better than Marcus. Like, you think people would believe that me, Dr. Franklin, would be married to this loser? Because at that point, Marcus has driven him up the wall with I Spy for like 20 hours straight.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Marcus is the most annoying man of all time. And I love that. It's like Ivanova tells Franklin, hey, be careful. Marcus can be a lot. He's like, hey, I've hung out with Marcus. He's all right. And then at the end of that journey, he's like, Marcus stinks. I hate that guy. He's so annoying. Oh, man. And then, there's we've got a whole array of characters, some that stay, some that don't. And even the ones that don't make it all the way through, or are even just when you look back in a handful of episodes, can still be as developed and as well realized as some main characters in the show or other shows. I mean, Julie Caitlin Brown as Natoth in the first season, she's maybe in 4 episodes of the show, maybe 5.
She and Dakar's bodyguard, played by Roadhouse Marshall Teague, same deal. Is like they're very charismatic. Even the minor actors who you look up their credits and they really don't have anything except soap operas, Skinamax, and just other cheesy B movies, they're surprisingly pretty decent. They come out of their shells somehow in this series.
They get good writing. Get the guy who plays Emperor Kataja, and he fits that bill that you just said. Yeah. he plays it like this is the most insane, like the best role of his entire life, and you can feel it. But when you look at his IMDb, he has very minimal soap opera stuff, and yet in that role, it's like, oh man, this guy is a little Caligula Nero man. He's so good.
He really is.
And,
that was a thing with him. I looked at his IMDb too, and I was like, how's this guy not in more stuff or be bigger? Because this dude is really good. I'm like, that should just be his demo reel. Here, look at this. And you talk about, we're talking about, talking about the great scenes. One of the scene where he's talking about where he's gonna, forgive, I will forgive you, Londo. As Londo's like realizing that he put a madman on the throne and he's walking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
How great! And that's a scene that no one really talks about. But how great is that? That whole scene is phenomenal.
And Tasha doesn't blink. He's so like he doesn't blink, and he's like, what are a few million lives for that of a living god? It's like, and then Londo backs away to meet one of the other best characters of the show too, Verini, the little mincing minister guy who'll become the regent, the saddest character. And the regent, the minister's
let's give him the I'm Droopy award for Wimpy's character. I'm Droopy.
I love him. I love Verini. That's like, again, that actor, he was in season 1 as just a guy. They gave Londo a call on the screen. They liked him, and they brought him back in season 3, and then they liked him again and brought him back in season 4, and then you get to season 5, and he's one of the most tragic characters, like the regent who started out as a little goofy guy. He's just making jokes all the time, and then
that was so relatable because we've all had that. We've had class clowns who we see years later, and they've either fucked up their life or they're doing something serious with it. You never know until it's...
or they're dead.
Oh, well, that's one way to look at it, Mr. Ellison. I just thought of something. What about when it's kind of wild there when they just kind of every once in a while kind of will go off to different kind of planets here and there, and they'll just kind of have some just dry remarks about, oh, this is a dump,
Yeah. Like when they go to Minbar, and it's like shambles because of a civil war, and it's like, oh, my beautiful city is in flames, Linear. And it's like, Linear's like, yeah, that's sad and all, but
Linear
the lives
so
lost.
Yeah.
There's another great character, Naroon. That's one of the best characters of the show too. The warrior caste member who's got a heart of gold underneath all of his anger. He's one of my favorites.
Tell us about it.
You got to read The Price of Peach. You'll like more on him in there.
I'll check it out. I know Tamlet, my pals, Jeff Akin and company, they have a bunch of different Star Trek podcasts, including The Greatest Track and Starfleet Leadership. But they also have a great podcast called Babylon 5 for the First Time, not a Star Trek podcast. And it's just so funny hearing it from their modern day eyes. They are trying to avoid spoilers and everything and watch it in chronological order. But they will buzz each other out when they make a Star Trek reference. They're like, getting off topic here. And they actually really dug. I thought I was the only one. They also dug Tamlin Tomita's character, who in the books is revealed to be kind of a traitor in the unofficial pilot. And I was like, see, that character, I would have kept her.
Takashima. Yeah.
I didn't think your dialogue was bad. The doctor kind of felt confused, so I can kind of see why they replaced him with Franklin. But, I mean, it was a pilot. No one really knew what they were doing.
Yeah, the weapons, they were phasers. I actually was doing an article about phasers, and someone referenced, because I did this whole article on the weapons of sci-fi, and one was a phaser. It took me a year to research it. So then I was like, things that were like phasers. And, of course, the B5 pilot gun comes up. I'm like, what? I don't remember the pilot. Because I always remember the PGP, that activates when you hold it up. Yeah. Which is really...
They restored it on TNT by Stuart Copeland of the Police.
Oh, really? But it's like, that was weird. That was another weird thing about the pilot. By the way, for characters that we wish, I had to look them up. It's one of the Centauri characters Rafi, I don't know. He's William.
Not to be confused with the Picard character, Rafi. Yeah.
Lord
Rafi,
Reefer.
I don't know. It's Refa, and it's played by William Ford, and he was one of my favorites. He was friends with Londo, and the way his accent is brilliant for the Centauri character.
Oh, the torturer guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reefer, who
Reefer.
he gets stomped to death by the Narn when they lure him there, and then then Londo gives him the nice little holographic speech about how he's going to die now, and this is all deserved. A hard cut to gospel singing on B5. One of the best murders on the show, honestly.
Tell me about it.
Because he was responsible for Adira.
This is Planet of the Apes kind of come up and see.
One of the most darkest moments that really just it says depression is when Londo says, "Now we've become a nation of isolationists," and I'm like, wow, that is fucking dark. And then you have a few episodes left before the finale, and I'm like, what?
How are they gonna get out of this pickle? Yeah, I love it when it becomes a spy show in those later seasons. It's just.
The Drakh are cool as shit. They're great. They're great antagonists. I like them. They've got a cool design, but they've got a cool plan, and they're just nasty. We haven't mentioned, but Wayne Alexander, one of the great actors on B5, who plays like every freaky character. Jack the Ripper. He's Lorien. He's that one Drazi in the interrogation episode when Sheridan's getting interrogated, and then he's the Drakh guy, and it's like, if you see that name pop up on the credits, it's going to be a good episode. It's good. He's kind of like the Jeffrey Combs of B5, where he plays like multiple different.
Oh, okay. That took me a second.
But man, I love the Drakh. They're so evil and sick, and I love the keepers that are on them, and it's just such a cool. The makeup in B5 is still excellent. These aliens, they look so cool. Like the Narn are a cool design. They are very elaborate, and they have spots, and they have Jakar has like the folds on his neck because he got implanted gills in the gathering, so it just stays there, and it's just so much cool stuff. And the alien design, we mentioned Kosh. Kosh is alluring because he's so abstract and so weird, and he has this big suit.
Half the time you don't know if it's a puzzle or a reveal of truth that only makes sense to him. You know, you're just like, I suppose you're right. What does it mean? What does it mean?
How good was Brad Dourif in his one episode?
As the guy about to be executed, the serial killer.
He was a serial killer. He was one of the monks.
Yeah.
But the monk killing, the serial killer. My bad. Yeah. And Mark Rolston from Aliens and Shawshank was the serial killer on Death Row.
Because he came off of
the mind wipe
X-Files.
concept.
Yeah, he did the X-Files episode.
He's in a Millennium episode. He's in everything.
Yeah.
Ever since
that's a great episode.
He was in a Voyager episode too, where he basically
the recurring assigns this guy who avenges himself. Yeah.
Of course, by the juices of Safu, I set my mind in motion. How can we ever forget his greatest role ever? I still have gone to Starbucks and repeated that. So
It was fun because Brad Dourif, he played a lot of creeps, a lot of monsters, a lot of ghouls, but I always think of him in
Alien Resurrection.
I was gonna say I always think of him in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where he was nice, he was sweet. You felt sorry for Billy.
Lord of the Rings, Every time I've seen him at a convention, he's been pretty welcoming to fans. I just wish he wasn't in the the damn VIP line, so you could actually talk to him for a second.
I mean, he's royalty for that type of stuff, isn't he? He's earned his stripes.
Oh yeah, no,
his
I hope he makes
also great.
Tons of money. Yeah.
Oh yeah, William, the Brad Dourif, the X-Files. It's a Beyond the Sea.
Beyond the Sea. That's
serial killer that could
see the future.
Not see the future. What was it? He could read minds or what?
Yeah.
Or
something like that. I'm about to rewatch it myself, actually.
It's a great episode.
Time on in The Exorcist 3.
Oh yeah,
hell of an actor.
Hell of an actor. And that's the thing about B5. They would get some of these actors that are known for certain things, like Peter Jurasik was known for comedy. He was the funny guy in Hill Street Blues. He was the like little
guy,
snitch. And Andreas Katsoulis plays a lot of over-the-top villainous characters. And
playing against type in makeup.
And they get these actors and they can play, and Walter Koenig, right? And they get these actors and not just play them against type, but give them material that demonstrates that they have a lot more range than maybe we, the viewer at home, have seen them on television. I grew up with B5 and I knew Jeff Conaway as Zach Allen. I know of Grease. I've watched Grease. It's not my type of thing. I've seen Taxi as well, but I think of him as Zach Allen, a very multifaceted character who's funny, but he also has a lot of gravitas. But for most people out there, they may see someone like Stephen Furst as Via and say, oh, it's the guy from Animal House.
Right.
Or they see Jeff Conaway and they say, oh, it's the guy from Grease. And this series was so rewarding to all of these to these performers, to give them a multitude of things to do. Like when you start the show, like they may be similar to how you know them. Like Veer is a buffoon in the first season, but he has some chutzpah. But remember when he's playing his little video game in the council meeting, like he's got his little Game Boy thing, and the car's playing with it later. But you get to a point where now Veer is getting drunk because he's murdered a person and he's never murdered anyone, and now he feels conflicted about it because the guy he murdered was an insane emperor. And it's like
that was
so far with these.
Yeah, but let's all be honest. Zach, there's a little bit of Kanicki in Zach and Zach Allen. There's a little bit of Kanicki in there.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a tad, itty bit.
But But Zach will have some really heartbreaking scenes. Like one of my favorites is in season 5 where he confronts Garibaldi about relapsing into alcoholism.
Yes,
and he's
I was just
standing
thinking about
there
that.
and he throws the orange at Garibaldi and he can't catch it. And then he's like, "Yeah, you're drunk. Bad time to do that." And Garibaldi
so many of the cast members were recovering alcoholics, so I think it was just very real, very meta.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff, like with most of these ensemble shows, you hear that where the writers will take something from those actors, where a personality thing, a story, a lot, like something they said, and bleed it into the show. So Jerry Doyle was very infamously a right-wing type of guy, and he would say certain things that then would be put into Garibaldi's mouth. Like, I think one time he was known for saying that we don't need electric chairs, we need electric bleachers for all of these criminals. And then he wrote that for Garibaldi. They put that for Garibaldi.
Wow.
And that's what you get with the Star Trek actors, you get with Space Above and Beyond, and some of the weaker characters are the ones where they don't get those out of the actors. I know, for instance, Marina Sirtis from TNG, from Star Trek, she's said many times like she regrets not going to the writers more often and talking to them and telling them stuff because she was too afraid to do that. And so you get Deanna Troi, who's very wishy-washy. And I think that applies to Talia in B5. Like, I'm not a big Talia fan. I'm more of a Lita fan. And Talia, I feel like, is a bit like that, where like I can never get a grasp on
Thompson
Talia.
Is cute, but yeah, I like her better when she's kind of a supporting kind of role, like 24 in YPD Blue. But
well, that's the thing. I think with some actors, break out of the mold of what they do worked. But for her, if you look at her catalog of work, her episode in Quantum Leap, she's in the highest rated episode of Quantum Leap.
Right?
Andrea Thompson usually plays badasses, like usually plays no nonsense. She would play the Ivanova role, honestly.
Yeah.
But Talia has to be very demure, very sensitive, very internal. And it's like, maybe she's not the best for that in this show, at least. But I'm curious to know though, what's everyone's favorite opening theme of B5? Because each season has their own little theme and monologue.
I'll let you guys go first. I got one.
I don't know. Mine might be just one where it says, it was the hope for peace. It failed.
Yeah.
Just that those two words is, tells you everything. It's so powerful. Those two. It failed.
Like, I'm not watching the show anymore. It failed.
Yeah, season 3.
Okay. Yeah, season 4, I like it when you see all their faces doing like a free rotation kind of.
Like high school pictures?
Yeah.
They turn and look to the camera. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Season 4 does have the benefit of everyone gets a moment to say something in the opening monologue. That's how that one works.
No, we did
Everyone
it.
has their little chime in. I also like season 1. Simplicity and Michael O'Hare's
It was the
vocal
beginning of the
delivery.
third age. Yeah.
Yes,
He had such a deep voice, but also he's like with Sinclair, and I think that's something that I
He
really
should have
appreciate.
voiced some TV ads.
He's so sincere. Sinclair was so sincere about everything. Like he believed in that what he's saying in that monologue.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you get to Ivonova, who's a very different type of character, and she says it failed, it actually impacts you as a viewer, because you did have a whole season of one guy believing that we could achieve peace through these means, and then we get Ivonova 2 seasons later saying, nope, it has to be about fighting now.
And the tone really shifts
Yep.
that way, and it's like, wow, this went from being, this is really peaceful, this isn't so bad, they're gonna win, right? And then we failed. I'm like, no, what? No. Don't say that.
Hey, at least B5 had the guts. I never thought DS9 could ever hold B5 when it came to battles and wars.
They would kick their asses in a fight, that is for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
what would the life of a fighter pilot be in 2257?
Babylon 5 to raiding party. Surrender your vessels or be destroyed.
I don't want a conflict if we can avoid it. If you need me, I'll be over there, getting drunk with the rest of the aliens.
Cheers. Babylon 5, weeknights, 9, Sci-Fi Channel.
Oreo doesn't think so.
I'll just
no, I mean, it could happen, shit.
But it's like,
we're going to suggest this to the Who and When team.
Fuck it, I need to get on there and kick somebody's ass.
But, for me watching, you had the Dominion War, and then you had these wars that were coming in B5, and they were around the same time, in TV watching. And, of course, there was Space Bum Beyond, which was just kicking so much ass. I couldn't even... And I was dating a girl that went to the Army, so she was kind of my Vanson, kind of time.
Oh.
Yeah, it was hot. Okay, anyway. But, the way that B5, and I just have to get this out there, the way they did that war and the way you felt it was... And they didn't repeat battle scenes, really. Now... DS9 did at the final battle. They did, and I was so upset by that and disgusted that they would repeat battle scenes at the Battle of Cardassia. I was like, I've already seen this. Come on, guys, seriously, you're gonna rerun? Once you show the Klingon ship blowing up in two movies, you did it. 2 freaking movies, you did it, and now you're doing. But Babylon 5, to their credit, some of the battle scenes in that were so thrilling, and I knew it was computer effects. I mean, no one can hide that. But it was more compelling, and anyway, I just had to get that out there when it comes to there's a lot of DS9 BF5 comparisons, but I don't think there really is one. It took years for DS9
4 years to bring B5 to life because of the CGI, because they started in '89, and then J. Michael said it's going to take 4 years to bring it together, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's a long wait for back then, because you're like, do I really want to stick around for 4 years and wait for a show, or am I going to, go watch something that's on right now? I mean, if you told somebody that today, you get a bunch of whining and shit. But back then, with the technology that was available,
he predicted the internet interaction with his online forum.
That's right.
It's
imagine TV shows without that. That would be unfathomable now.
Oh, of course, and it's about knowing your material, but knowing the audience that will watch it as well. It's a very patient show. It will bring things back, and each time a new season comes around, there's improvements on a visual level. And there's always troubles in productions. B5 is known for having a 5-year plan, a 5-season plan, a big show buyable, but the reality is, even now in television, things can interrupt your plan. Actors leave, or a show gets canceled suddenly,
Pandemic.
or you get delayed a season, or something or other. A year gets pushed back. Like all these things happen to B5 in some way,
network
shape, or
exec
form.
is killing anything that's too expensive. Yeah.
You get network interference clearly as well. That happens too, but somehow through all of these troubling waters, B5 managed to keep on the straight and narrow and provide a pretty satisfying story with all of these seeds that were planted in the beginning and watered throughout the show and then eventually blossomed. And so it's still to this day something very admirable, because we live in an age now where this is a given for most shows, and maybe some shows don't need to have the big story plan thing.
Yes,
but
they do. No,
you still see it.
Star Wars.
Yeah, but you still see it fumble because either they don't plan it out, or things just stop it before it can really get cooking. There's so many great science fiction shows that I love. Yeah. There's so many great science fiction shows that I love that just don't get the chance to go all the way. And it's real difficult.
Threshold is a good example.
That's a good show.
We'll return after these messages.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
So I'm going to let you guys do your rankings.
Oh boy.
Of the seasons and movies. If you want, I can go first if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I would rank seasons 2, 3, and 4 perfect 5. Like, at the core, there's very few episodes. I really don't want to skip any episode, even if it's a weaker one. I just love the atmosphere in those particular ones. The battles move the story forward, and all the dry humor and just bizarre mysteries are just really still make for engaging programming today. Crusade, The Lost Tales, and Third Space, I'm going to give a 4.5 out of 5, just because those are overall pretty good standalone material. Like, they're really engaging, and they're good at experimenting and going into other genres like adventure, and I mean, Lost Tales is even listed as horror at times because it involves an exorcism. So I mean, seasons 1 and 5, the In the Beginning movie, and A Call to Arms, I'm going to give a 4 out of 5. They're pretty kick-ass. They have some imperfections. They have some hammy acting and questionable music at times, but other than that, they have some solid staging and just electrifying ideas and what have you. And then I'm going to give Legend of the Rangers and the Road Home animated movie a 3.5 out of 5. Like, those are fun, but I wouldn't introduce everyone to it because there's a lot of giant backstory to just kind of introduce newcomers to, but they're still very intriguing. And I mean, Road Home, I must give applause. I know Oreo loved it even more. It's kind of their answer to the Spider-Verse of Marvel in a way, with that time travel.
Yeah.
But I'll let you guys take it away. Who wants to go?
I got to fire
just
up
give
my
them
laptop first.
just give them like a 5-star rating type thing you're doing. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess maybe
and a
like
5-star
2,
scale.
3, and 4. Probably seasons 2, 3, and 4, 5 out of 5. Seasons 1 and 5, a 4 out of 5. I really love Babylon 5. Now the movies, I tell you, it's probably been 20. I need to watch. I have all of it. But it's probably been 20 years since I've seen the movies.
I can't wait for
know
the
if I can
Blu-ray
even rank
remaster of the series. It's going to be so much fun to see them what they do with that.
Oh, that's going to be great. Yeah, but that's not the movies though. The movies, that's not included. In the
Yeah.
movies.
No,
but
that's what sucks.
So hopefully this sells well, and then they'll do the
TNT
movies.
decide to cockblock their efforts, but I do have them on Amazon Prime, and I like what they've done with the remaster.
Yeah, well, I have a set. I bought, the DVD set of the complete movies all in one set.
Yep.
Gimmick. And so like I said, it's probably been 20 years since I've seen them. So I don't know if but I'm sure they're great. So we'll give them just we'll give them a 3.5 just because they're Babylon 5. And Crusade was awesome. That's the show. JMS got screwed on that one. We all know. And solid 4.5 out of 5.
And I forgot about the River of Souls. Shit, that's I guess a 3 out of 5. I guess.
How could you forget?
Well, I really dug Martin Sheen and his makeup and everything. It was just one of those. I wouldn't really introduce everyone to it because it's kind of a side quest as opposed to a TV movie. A lot of people hate it. I just love the ideals that it gets across, even though it kind of has some slower moments.
Yeah.
I just like to make it more Babylon 5. You had the show, and the show ended, but here's some movies. All right, let's Babylon 5. I can't be mad at it. It's still better than half the other crap that's out there.
That is true too. Yeah.
No, Bad Babylon 5 is better than most the other sci-fi stuff. That's out,
compared to so many other franchises that jumped the shark. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there's. I mean, that's the thing. There's so much B5 to rank.
Even if it's a lesser episode, I'd watch it again. I guess
Oh yeah. I'm one of those nerds who watches all of it. I'm not going to skip Grail, even though I don't like it very much. I'll still watch it.
Watch them all because there's always something in it. It may, A story may not be good, but the B story is really
even
good.
The outdated CNN-esque news thing I might skip, but other than that, it's pretty solid.
But rankings, it's always I never think about B5 in those ranking terms, but like
the whole thing 5 stars.
For sentimental reasons, I give season 1 a good solid 4 stars. It has some of the weaker episodes of the show. The actors are still finding their feet, as is the writing.
Especially that first episode. I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer.
Yeah, but it also has some great moments. It has some great bits, and they pay off later. I think I'd also rate season 5 a 4 as well, because it has some slower stuff. It has some story beats that I don't care for, but also some of my favorite episodes of the show in there as well. And I love that Babylon 5 ends on a more bittersweet note than anything else.
So good.
And then 2 to 4, I agree. Like they're 5 stars. They're great. It's weird because I think there are more episodes in season 2 that I outright don't care for than in season 1. But the good of season 2 is so strong. Like,
you just got to get past the snobs
struggle.
who want everything to look, I don't know, like, I don't know who the famous makeup artist of today would be, but for me, as a guy who grew up with the likes of Rick Baker and Stan Winston, I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. But yeah, season 2 to 4, 5-star stuff. I think season 3 is my favorite. I just like the pacing of season 3. I like the tone of it. Yeah. You got Marcus is new. You got the Night Watch stuff.
Marcus
is
so underrated.
It has the Franklin drug addiction arc is in there, and I like that arc.
Yeah. Years before we were talking about opioids.
Yeah, but the movies, I've watched them. I find them all kind of just fine overall. Like, I watch them, but there are times when I don't watch them. I just watch the show. Like, the movies are perfectly adequate. Like, The Gathering is probably with The Legend of the Rangers, my least favorites. But the rest of them, they like, In the Beginning is probably the best movie out of them all, I would say. If not for anything else, but for the scene where the president of Earth is just telling everyone that they're going to all die, basically, and that we should prepare for that.
Yeah.
They get that actress who played her was the Trisha O'Neill, who was the captain of the Enterprise C. Yeah.
And Garrett.
Oh, yeah. And she was also in Believers as the alien mother. So there you go. But yeah, the new movie, I rather enjoyed it. The Road Home, I thought it was a fun little time. I would give it like a 3 out of 5. Like, it was good. It was nice.
If they want to do what they do with Scooby-Doo or all the other DC animations where they just do one every 1 or 2 years, I'd be totally down for that.
Yeah.
And Crusade, I need to rewatch again. I've never really cared for Crusade. It's a little bit too silly for my taste.
I think,
but I love Gary Cole. And I love Daniel Day Kim.
Okay, so instead of doing what fans used to do, which was pop the discs, backing out, back and forth, and watch in chronological order, just buy it off Vudu or Amazon and watch it in the intended creators order. You will have so much fun with it. And I did that.
Yeah.
And watching it the first time, and I was like, I can't imagine watching it in any other order. I would have been confused. I would have been like, it ends like that.
Crusade's after B5. That's the whole point of it. It's literally season 1.
But all the episodes,
they aired them out of order.
Yeah, so
like Firefly.
And absolutely like Firefly. And you would have been so confused. You're like, so Franklin's only in the last episode? I'm like, no, he's in the episode.
Or Gary Cole was in a TV show called American Gothic.
Yes, he was.
It was also a 1-season show where he plays a charismatic lead who's dark and brooding, that was aired out of order. And it's weird that it happened to Gary Cole twice in the 90s. The 90s to 2000s. It's weird it happened to him twice.
West Wing and Office Space, he's pretty much been given extra time to do what he wants now. He's now the lead on NCIS, but I liked how when he was replacing the lead on that, they gave it time. And to your point, they kind of didn't give you enough time. It's like, hey, he's the new guy now that Sheridan's retired on Earth, but or not on Earth, on where does he retire again? Minbari. He goes to Minbari, and I feel like Crusade holds up really well. It's just skip that one dumb where they have 2 alien agents, which are clearly a Scully and Mulder homage. It just doesn't
That's
work.
The one I remember being fun. Don't you dare.
Really?
I need to sit down and rewatch the show myself.
The dialogue was so bad in that one.
That's a fun episode. How dare you?
The rest
the
is
music
funny.
sucks in Crusade too. That's the other big no-no.
Really? You don't like that percussion, that like kind of
a lot of fans hate it, but I love the electronic music. But now, if you want really bad electronic music that sounds like a Casio keyboard, watch the new CSI. You will just be like, these guys should have never come back. And why do you even bring back the leads when they're literally just featured cameos? They barely are in the episode. It's bad. Sorry, go ahead. I watch too much shit.
I know that feeling. I do. I know that.
Oh, and I rank Hypernauts a 5 out of 5. We haven't mentioned Hypernauts. Everyone's skipping over Hypernauts.
Universe.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, we all know about Hypernauts.
It was like by the same producers.
Oh, you don't know about Hypernauts? Great.
No.
It was on YouTube, but yeah, basically, I think Doug Netter, the producer, and the animation group of B5 went and created a kids show. And so you get a bunch of B5 actors and a bunch of B5 special effects. And
well, then we got to include Captain Power.
B5 universe, but not really. And there's a puppet creature called the Gloose, and they have an amazing opening credit sequence where it lists all the characters. You get their little picture, and then it says, "And introducing the Gloose," and it's like this little gazelle-looking puppet. It's very absurd, but if you want to kick out of even more random B5 nonsense, you got that in the wings for your Hypernauts, where you get the actress who played Julie Masante, the Night Watch lady, the one who tried to sleep with Sheridan. You get to see her as an evil alien bitch, and it's great.
Check that out. All right, secret game question time. You all ready? Yeah, secret question time, people. It's a staple. What is your favorite? What are a couple of your favorite one season only shows that only lasted one season and got canceled? And we know Crusade and Firefly.
Besides Space Above and Beyond,
Spider-Man Unlimited.
Oh,
yeah.
There's so many.
Spider-Man Unlimited. Threshold.
I liked Flash Forward.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a.
What? No one's gonna see the Lone Gunman? I'm just kidding.
Lone Gunman's
There
great.
you go. Lone Gunman.
The best pilot episode ever created.
Right. Blow up the World Trade Center, you bastards.
It'll be fine. What's
it'll
that?
be fine.
Came out before 9/11, only a few months. Whoopsies.
I think someone got some inspiration. I don't know.
Yeah.
What's the one? It was kind of the answer to HBO's Rome.
Spartacus? No, that was one season.
No.
Spartacus went on for 4 seasons.
Empire. No relation. It was a 2005 epic and had a US and UK cast, and
Empire had Fat Joe in it and John Leguizamo. That's a movie.
That's a fun movie, but this is a TV show, and I do like that movie. Yeah, there's so many other just like one shot. Like
there's ones I would love to revisit, but I don't know how they would work. Like I always want to know what Terra Nova is like nowadays.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Had they fired their writers and gotten some better ones and just let it continue, it would have.
Which one was that? Is that the one where they went back with the dinosaurs?
Yeah, yes. Stargate meets Jurassic Park. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good show. Yeah, it was. I like that.
Yeah, it was fun. It's just the kids were really dumb.
It was the guy. He was on Life is Life on Mars.
Yeah, Stephen Lang.
And he was in Avatar too.
In the second Deadpool movie.
Yes, he was.
Mm-hmm. He should play Cable.
He should play Cable. He should play everybody.
I got one for you that only ran as a TV movie, and I wanted the show, and it was Michael D. Moore, the god of Battlestar Galactica.
Good versus evil.
He did it influenced me, called Virtuality, and it was only aired once. It aired in 2009, and I bought it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and I did a whole blog post on it, and I dug into the music and all this other stuff, and it influenced my first book. I mean, it's an incredible. If you've never seen it, you can find it on YouTube. It's called Virtuality, but if you're a big fan of
type it in the things. I have it written down there.
Got it. I'm on it.
Oh, thank you. Dark Shadows, the 90s or late 80s, early 90s remake they did with Ben Cross.
Oh man,
dude, let me tell you about that. I was probably like 1920, and I had my own apartment, and it was on Friday nights, and every Friday I had a party. Because that's what you do when you're 19 or 20. You have a party with 20 people in your apartment, right? But at night, was it on 9 or 10 o'clock? The party would stop. I would make everyone stop and sit down, and I would record on VHS the Dark Shadows show. So imagine everyone with their beer just sitting watching Dark Shadows every Friday night for an hour, and then to watch Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
It was like, really? I'm like, yeah, sit down, shut up. We're watching Dark Shadows.
Sit your ass down. We're watching it. And back in the day before, where you either watched everything live or you recorded it.
That's right. You missed it. So yeah, I had to record it on VHS. I had them all on VHS at the time. And I love that show. That was so good. But buried on Friday.
Future episode, promise.
I liked there was a show called Awake with Jason Isaacs.
See, all these shows have the 24 Millennium X-Files writers attached to it. That's why they're so good.
Yeah, because that was one where Jason Isaacs was a cop who, at the very beginning, gets into a car accident, and he's stuck between two different realities. One where his son died, or one where his wife died.
Oh,
and
wow!
There's little differences between them. So, for instance, he's still having this, he's solving crimes, but it's the same crime, but there will be some piece of evidence in this reality and some piece of evidence in that reality, and it was really good. It was.
Oh, that's interesting.
it was an interesting take on a procedural show, but also it was examining grief and loss and had the kind of mystery of like which reality, what's going on, which reality is real.
What's going on?
But Jason Isaacs too, who's a wonderful actor. It's one of the times where he gets to play a hero, like a good person.
He
like
was so dedicated
everyman.
to it.
And usually he plays villainous characters, but he really shines there. And it's such a bummer that show just didn't get the chance to thrive. It was at 2015, I want to say, and it was just on a certain channel at a certain time of night, and it just didn't make it.
I think it was NBC or something.
They just don't understand sci-fi, and I don't get it. They got 2 new thriller shows that I know for a fact I'm going to love, and they're probably going to cancel it.
I got 2 more. I got one that aired last year, which I thought was the best show of last year, was Time Traveler's Wife with Theo James.
I did hear good stuff about it.
Well, Stephen Moffat wrote it. Stephen Moffat wrote all the episodes. And I'm a huge Stephen Moffat fan.
God.
And he did Coupling, the show called Jekyll. I mean, I love Stephen Moffat. He's like one of my favorite writers.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
And dude, this show is so. If you're into time travel, dude, this show is phenomenal.
I'll do time travel if they flesh it out. They just can't.
It's so good.
Okay.
It's not available anymore on the. It was Netflix or Hulu. It was on.
Freaking Netflix, man.
Or HBO Max, or one of them. But you can buy the DVDs on eBay. They're like $20 the whole first
Fuck
season.
Those guys.
It is so worth it.
Alaska Daily. This just came out last year, and by the time it came back, I was like, I just have a feeling they're just gonna cancel this. It's just too fucking good. It's topical, Hilary Swank in a wonderful comeback role, some light humor. Just give me a sense of how no one cares about these cold cases in journalism anymore, and how it just takes a bunch of people just speaking the same language to just finally do something. And sure enough, despite that grit, despite that winning cast, despite everything, it just wasn't enough. And I was just not surprised when I saw ABC refuses to order back. I'm like, get fucked. Get fucked.
And there was one pilot that was supposed to. It was a pilot that was, I guess, supposed to go to series, but it didn't. But you can find it. I think it's online, and it's called Parallel or Parallels. It's either Parallel or Parallels with an S. Where basically it's a time. It's almost like Sliders, where it's this building that travels from universe to universe, and if you're not back in the building at that specific time where it's going to go, then you're
French
stuck.
Language?
I'm sorry.
Is it French language on Disney
English?
Plus? Okay.
Yeah, no, it's English. Yeah, and it's really good. And
4 teenage friends on the French-Swiss border.
Parallel or Parallels. It's called.
Turned upside down by an experiment of the LHC, the Greatest Particle Collider.
No,
that's not the one. Okay, we'll figure it out.
Sounds interesting.
It does sound good. There's so many other ones I could mention, and I promise we're going to do some TV specials by year.
Good.
It's just,
and sometimes too, like, I just want to give a shout out of we talk about some you get recurring villainous names of canceled shows, like Fox is a great villain of shows that deserved more space above and beyond, obviously, but they did that a lot, like Firefly, clearly. But even with fun shows like
Andy Richter controls the universe.
show, like the Patrick Warburton version of The Tick, the live action version.
That was such a funny show. Oh my God.
It was such a great show. It was such a great show, and
the fans loved it. The actor got to shine.
Yeah, Patrick Warburton's great, and there's just so much fun stuff in that.
You know what?
It's just a fun show.
You know what? We're talking Andy Richter.
Oh yeah.
He had his sitcom, which had Baguette Brewster and all these other hysterical comedians and featured comedy talents. It was such an amusing workplace comedy with very witty, groovy music and a hysterical narration, and kind of an anti-workplace comedy in a way, like turning that subgenre on its head a few different times. And then when he did his Private Eye parody show, Andy Barker, which Conan produced, I was hollering. I remember my sister recording every episode and being like, why do people hate everything I love, when the final episode aired? And I saw it recently on Roku, and it is a hoot. Chinatown. That's a Jackie Chan movie, isn't it? No. It's one of the best movies ever made, asshole. It's just funny funny. 6 episodes, not enough. Like, I would watch, like, that would kill nowadays if you put something like that on Adult Swim.
Yeah, and I know that there's
People are just afraid. They're afraid.
Yeah. I know that there are some of those like superhero shows or stuff too that people
Gotham
enjoy.
Knights for Oreo here.
Right. Wasn't there also Swamp Thing? Wasn't that a big one that people were upset
love
about?
that
Like it
show.
didn't really get to
You can
go.
Something was great, but they got screwed on the money on that. They were promised. The reason why that show looked so good was they were promised. Warner Bros. Was promised like all this tax money, so they spent the money to make this really good show, thinking they're going to get that money back, and they didn't. And that's why they cut the show down from whatever 20 episodes to 18 or whatever it was. So that's why they cut the show down and didn't do that, and that's why it looks so good. And because all that
I just love his
Swamp
opening
was a set.
narration. I am Swamp Thing.
Oh, that Swamp Thing show was incredible. But yeah, they
actor.
they
It was
really
a
got screwed.
mystery of the week, and I'll take it over whatever shit happened in that new one. I was just like, what's going on here? But we literally created 2 episodes tonight, guys. Great job. But like you say, yeah, it's just eye opening where you're just like, what happened?
Well, it's literally just me and you half the time doing the same shit.
Yes. Yep. So I'm linking Oreo with a Hypernauts show on Roger and
that looks like
good.
I just watched the trailer for that. By the way, guys, I'd heard and I was like, oh my god, this looks like the BattleTech, the BattleTech animated series from like '94.
And it is kind of like that Robotech, Armortech. Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. And then like it looks like something that would have come out of like it looked like the Photon
Fox
TV
Kids after Power Rangers, yeah.
Yeah,
Cooler.
exactly. Oh my god, that show's gonna haunt me. Thank you all for making me watch that.
It is kind of an acid dream. You can watch it with kids on, but do you really want to?
No, I love my children enough not to do that to them.
Come on.
Oh,
Fuck them kids. They're gonna get.
I promise I will finish it. I love me some Cyberpunk and just crazy, just hard to describe shit. Whether it's something stupid on Sci-Fi Channel or Skinamax or whatever, it's funny.
Oh, the good.
But yeah, this looks fun. Right? They had some sci-fi shows too.
Oh no. I got your email. You're gonna torture me some more with Hypernauts.
Oh, fuck.
Come on. Hypernauts was created by Christy Marks, who did Gem and the Holograms. Come on.
Oh,
Christy Marks.
Gem and the Holograms.
She did Gem and the Holograms and Hypernauts in a B5 episode that wasn't very good. She's done a bunch of stuff.
I love how you're trying to sell him and then you use the worst way to sum it up. Yeah, he did a B5 episode. She wrote a B5 episode. It wasn't very good.
She wrote Grail, but that's fine. We could all forgive.
Was Grail the one with Michael York? How dare you?
No, Grail was the one with not Michael York, the guy from Tron as well, David Warner.
Oh,
yeah, that was okay. How dare you, sir?
How dare I?
We all are outspoken. It's all good. We all have unpopular opinions on here. I'm afraid to ask Oreo his hot take.
What?
I feel like he'll shatter the internet.
What hot take?
I don't know. I just anything. I just am afraid.
Well, you know me. I hate the Star Wars OT, and that's a whole nother bag of worms.
I love it.
Oh no.
I hate Mad Max Fury Road. There, said it. I
actually that movie I can't give a solid fucking review for because I've watched it twice and I just can't put my finger on what the hell to say about
Well, William was here last time. It's very much like Terminator Genesucks, where I'm just like, too many cooks.
I don't know. Fury Road is good, but I just can't give it a whole
it just feels like Fast and Furious to me. I can watch the original trilogy because it's just kind of like Mel Gibson was saving the village people, with car chases.
If nothing else, Fury Road gave us several things, including practical effects back and witness me. I mean, come on.
Okay, yes,
come on.
I will give you that.
Okay,
I mean that's why I like Dial Destiny so much. I was like, people are actually getting shot off horses in this movie.
Yeah.
A return to Western John Ford type stunts I love it. But
I just want to give that's not okay. I mean, I'm putting that thing in there. You know,
that's
dude,
what she said.
Dude, oh yeah, dude, that thing is gonna haunt my dreams now. That Muppet. What the frack
I
is
put
it?
a picture
Yeah,
of
Jim
the
Henson
Gloos
was
for
busy.
everyone to enjoy. I'm giving everyone a taste of the Gloos picture, and I'm glad that we all love the Gloos.
Oh,
the Gloos walked so Jar Jar could run.
Oh, okay. That was just the quote of the night. That sounds like something you do in your pants after you eat Taco Bell, brother.
Wow.
Dude, I got a glue. You know, come on. That thing's gonna haunt my dreams.
Man.
The dead eyes. The eyes, they look at me.
Don't hear no girl saying, I have the glues. Like, I got the glues so bad. Oh my God. Help me, Cheryl. I'm gonna glues.
Oh my God.
But come on, guys. Now it's just Hypernauts Talks. It has Louis Arquette in it, the dad of, famed actor.
Someone had to do it.
Yeah, we had to mention
Eric
Arquette.
Roberts wasn't available.
Yeah, that's fine. David
Neither was
Arquette.
Michael Madsen.
Oh.
I'm just listing off generic B-movie actors.
I miss Michael
Ironside.
Madsen. He's so cool.
I love them all. I'm just saying, like, but they got certain offers. I'm just saying, Lance Henriksen was busy. Tony Todd was probably doing a Candyman sequel. I don't think they were asked to be in that.
You guys talked about Space Above and Beyond. I've never seen it. What's the give me the elevator pitch?
Okay.
It's in space. It's above and beyond.
Got it.
Did you just say pigs in space?
The best military science fiction show ever made by two of the guys responsible for the X-Files, and it takes place and they have some of the most outstanding dialogue, and it's more hard
Babylon
science
5 on steroids.
Yeah, and you watch it for all the. I mean, it has some of the lines that still use to now. Today. I see the word jalapeno enema on the daily because I work in a hospital. I say jalapeno enema.
Oh my God!
Literally the finest military science fiction show ever made, and
I'm sending it to him now on his YouTube.
There you go. And the episode Gray Butts has one of the best lines when Shane Vanson comes in that guy's room. What do you think about in the dark? I think about the first man I ever killed.
Oh,
I think about that happened in the dark.
Yeah,
maybe you just speak for yourself. As another
Above and Beyond
spin-off.
is a fine piece of business. It's one season show, sadly, but
if you want
it was doing a lot of stuff that science fiction television wasn't doing at the time and would go on to do later. It's following the boots on the ground, the soldiers. They aren't the ones calling the big shots. They're the ones out there doing the job and getting it done, and really dealt with PTSD and dealt with the traumas of war and dehumanization, both of the people who are in the Marines and the aliens they're fighting. Also, they have some really cool AIs in it that are awesome as well. But
Cyberpunk as hell. Even the cyborg just science behind it is just so original.
It was a very somber show. That's something too. It's if you like stuff like Battlestar Galactica, the remake, or if you like The Expanse or
Very
Firefly, even you'll get a kick out of
those
Space
are
Above
all
and Beyond.
one side of the same coin. They absolutely are. Another great show that's loose X-Files, Erie, Indiana.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
He knows exactly what I'm going to talk about.
Yes,
Strange Luck, which starred DB Sweeney and a bunch of these other actors as this private eye, just going into one crazy scenario after another, and sometimes encountering supernatural things. It was like the Pretender show, kind of in a way too, and only lasted a season. It was produced by Roger Corman's company, but way above average. And in the final episode, they were like, "Who are you going to call? Agent Mulder?" Because they were hoping, much like Picket Fences, they wanted to do an X-Files crossover, but the ratings did not deliver. So we'll never know how he found his father and brother, and like, God damn it.
Well, I did see that Space Above and Beyond was created by Glenn Morgan and James Wong, and those guys could do no wrong in my eyes. I've loved everything they've done before.
Final Destination,
I've seen. So
the one,
the
one could literally have been expanded as an X-Files spinoff. I'd watch it every day. Jet Li kicking ass.
Oh well, yeah.
I
Can't go wrong with that.
I generally love people that have never seen Space Above and Beyond because you get to experience it the first time. Because there was nothing like it, and I watched it when it was on TV, and I taped it. I worked at McDonald's, and I'd have to like tape it and come home and watch it. You know, not go out with my friends and party and drink and play D&D. I go, oh, I gotta watch Space Above and Beyond. And I don't regret
You're so depressive, man.
I can relate.
Welcome to my life. I don't drink. I watch awesome TV.
Oh, I did. I just wanted to see Vanson a little bit more. I mean, you know, man.
You wanted to drink and go to sleep with the kick-ass TV.
With Space Above and Beyond, Glenn Morgan, James Wong created that after the first two. Like they did the first 2 seasons of X-Files, and then were offered their own show, so they went and did that, and it was a nightmare. Fox immediately wanted to destroy it from the beginning.
Just like
so they had to deal with
just
that.
wouldn't leave him alone.
Wouldn't leave him alone, and their experience was so like the show's good. They had a good time with it. A lot of the cast from it are in X-Files and still talking. They're in Millennium and so on and other works. But my favorite piece of trivia about the experience was they were in such a bad headspace after the show got canceled that they wrote an X-Files script that they put in, and it was Home, the X-Files episode Home, which is a really fucked up episode.
Oh yeah,
and
great.
It's also one of the highest rated episodes of the show.
Episode, yes.
And they got Tucker Smallwood, the actor, to be in that one, and he was in Space Above and Beyond as one of the main characters. And he read the script and phoned them up and asked, "Are you guys okay?
Yeah,
are you guys okay? Because this script is messed up." It's like,
then they also did Jose Chung from Outer Space too. So
which is about Scientology of all things. Yeah, and
Space Above and Beyond made them so angry that they wrote one of the best episodes of X-Files out of spite. It's like, awesome,
definitely awesome. Those are some good suggestions, ladies and gents. I've got numerous other ones, but we're gonna leave it for the TV by year category. Now it's time for you guys to promote your shows. Who wants to let you know that you exist and you're unmissable?
I'm a real boy. Oh, Japan, he's so cool.
So we can find the best Oreo cookie on YouTube.
Yes, definitely. I'm on YouTube under Oreo Brewer. I'm on Wattpad under Immortal Beloved 89. If you want to read my poetry and stories, some of Star Wars fanfics.
Yep.
I'm on Twitter under SW The Draken Saga.
You really go there?
Yes, I did.
We just got an X rating. Perfect.
Yeah, sweet. X rated. Who wants to give it a triple X rating?
Oh boy.
I'm not even sure what we can put in that.
Oh, I can do some shit.
I'm sure you can. I'm afraid to find out. That's great.
Next time.
So Ryan.
Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Triple Ball Z. Yum Yum Pod, is on Spotify. What do you got?
I'm on all of those places. Yes, we're on all of them. We're on YouTube as well. Just Yum Yum Podcast. We cover science fiction shows one episode at a time. My wife and I, we like to sit together, watch a show, and then gab about it.
And then talk shit about it. I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah, but we started with Star Trek Discovery. Moved on to B5. And we're releasing our Space Above and Beyond discussions right now. And we've just started, we're recording, won't come out for a little while, but we're also doing The Expanse as well. So we like to talk about a lot of different things.
It should be called The Expand, because it expands your mind.
Oh, and my pants. I'm sorry. That cast,
you said it, not
is
me.
Nothing but beefcakes and hot ladies. It's
God.
everyone's. Yeah. Amos is hot. I'm sorry. He took his shirt off one time, and I'm like, I know you're buff, but geez, Louise.
I'm straight.
Is that a requirement in the Expanse cast? You must be jacked. Holden took off his shirt, and I'm like, oh boy, he's a lot. He's a lot of guy.
Too much.
But, in the wise words of Claudia Christensen from Farscape, she gives me a woody.
She gives me a Woody. But yeah, we cover your sci-fi shows, so we can be found under Yum Yum Podcast. Yum Yum is a reference to Star Trek Discovery, and we like to make fun of that line of dialogue all the time. Hence, we named the show after it, for that mystery to be solved. And so, yeah, it's a grand old time on all of those social
It's like
medias.
that one line
You'll
in
find us.
Anchorman. It's provocative. No one knows what it means.
Yeah.
Lovely. Roger, do you have any talk shows you're on? I know.
Not any active podcasts right now. So if anyone out there wants to start a podcast of any kind, let me know. I'm always interested. I'm always down to talk. I can talk for hours and hours and hours.
You are. You've done a lot of blog posts.
Podcast.
I'm sorry?
I said as evidenced by this podcast.
Oh, how dare you.
Oreo's
Hey, I brought it to 11, all right?
Hey, it's all good. Oreo's a mischief maker, as we all are. You were young
I have a
once.
movie. It's called Quarterman. It's available on Tubi, which I co-wrote and directed.
Oh, please link it. I gotta
It's about
see
friends,
this.
like friends in a comic book store type of thing, and it's
Oh,
only an hour
wow.
and 15 minutes. And check it out. It's pretty good. Has
Sweet.
the younger kid from A Christmas Story, Randy. He's in it.
Randy?
Randy from A Christmas Story.
Not Randy
I
Savage.
can't put my arms down. This one, put them down.
Put him down.
Oh, it's up on Tubi. Quarterbin. Check it out.
Quarterbin. Okay, sweet. Will I am. What do you got?
All right, so my name is William Bregnard. There's only one in the United States. I live in
Allegedly.
Literally, I'm the only one. My last name is only shared by 100 people in the United States. Oh, there we go.
Really?
Really. Fun fact.
He checked the phone books like the jerk.
Right?
The last of his kind.
Yes, unfortunately.
This is the story of a.
I'm like Duncan
This is the
McLeod, just not as
story.
cool.
About a family.
Fuck the Brady Bunch.
Oh, wow. Hey.
Oh my God.
Marsh deserved to get beat in the face with a football.
Just started
Wow.
free. Holy
Hashtag
fuck.
got
football
real.
lives matter.
Oh, I'm not even responding to that.
Hashtag fuck that news.
Okay. What you were saying.
So, my name's William. I started the Future War Stories. It started off as a blog because I didn't have any money on Blogger. It still exists there. And since 2010, I've been writing research articles, basically because I have a degree in history and I like articles. And so I've been writing about military science fiction because I was writing my first military science fiction book and I couldn't figure out some of the things. So I said, I should research this. And that's how it started. William Fresby is also a big one in that circle. So Future War Stories, where we explore and explain military science fiction, and it's right now in the process. I'm working on the first scripts of the podcast, which is it's gonna exist in both. So I'm looking at the first 5 scripts. Will be me just kind of talking. I have a friend who has a much better voice than I do. Maybe she'll do it. We haven't.
Need any help? Let us know.
Yeah, So it's but yeah. So for 756 articles, the next one's about up, and I have a guy in Israel that writes with me as well, who's really good. He's really cool. He's safe, by the way. I already checked on him.
Oh, good,
But,
good.
I was just about to make an appropriate joke. I'm glad you stopped me.
But yeah, so that's where I come from. It's been a long road, to borrow from Enterprise, which I'm about to talk about.
Oh boy.
Probosity.
Oh, yes.
Enterprise. Rent.
I do love Enterprise very, very much. And if you're not listening, if you love Star Trek, please give the podcast, the Shuttle Pod Show podcast, a listen. They're really amazing. Dominic and Connor are the guys doing it. So amazing.
Sweet.
There you go. That's it.
Alrighty, ladies and gents. We came, we saw, we conquered.
We kicked its ass.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up